All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the April 20th Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting. This afternoon's meeting is an electronic meeting held pursuant to Section 238, 3.3 of the Municipal Act 2001. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order. The first order of business is the election of a chair and a vice chair. So I'm inviting any committee member to move to bring some names forward and to go from there. So Councillor Silovitz.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Clerk. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the new term. So we just have to do the first order of business is the election of a chair and a vice chair. So I've had a discussion with Lopa Banerjee, who was our vice chair last term, and also with our staff. And if everybody is fine with that, if you want to vote that way, I'll gladly accept the chair again for this term. It's my absolute honor and pleasure to do so. If anybody wants to do so I would put my name forward. And for the vice chair, Lopez said that she would gladly take the vice chair again, unless there is someone, she's not online with us, unless there's someone here who would like to accept that responsibility. Basically, it's if I'm not available, you run the show. So it's up to you. Is there anybody sitting here who would like to do that? Otherwise, we'll leave it with Lopa. Is that okay, Ryan, that we can put her name in? Okay. I'll leave it to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a motion on the floor that Councillor Silovitz be elected as chair for the AAC and that Lopa Banerjee be elected as the vice chair for the AAC for the term. Is there any discussion? I'm not seeing anything, so I'll put that forward. All of those in favor?
Raise your hands. Yeah.
You can please raise your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries unanimously. At this time, I'd like to move, pass the chair over to Councillor Silovitz.
Thank you very much, Ryan. So again, welcome everybody. I'm so glad to be in this chair again, one more time for this term. It is an honor to be able to serve all of you and to serve the city and the residents in this manner. We do have quite a number of new faces here, Ryan. If it's okay with you, could we just do an intro, just names and who they are down the bench? Why don't we start with, we've got a few people online, and why don't we start with who is inside council chambers? And there's Councillor Davidson. Let's go right from that end. If you could just introduce yourselves, press your buttons, tell us your name and just a little bit about you. If I recognize you, but others won't.
My name is Simon Waldman. I've been on this committee for many years and was invited to come back to this session.
Hi, it's Patricia Ripka. I was on the last committee.
Thank you,
With
Patricia.
COVID, it was a bit.
Good to know. Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome back, guys. Okay, and is it Tony?
My name is Ted Moritzigu. I've lived in Richmond Hill since 1968. Very limited amount of vision.
Welcome, Ted. Thank you very much. And then we have Lawrence.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Rafeman. I'm a retired teacher. I'm only in Richmond Hill 3 years, but I was originally from Newmarket, and I was actually on the AAC committee in Newmarket for a number of years as well. So nice to meet you all, and I'm happy to be of help here.
Thank you, Lawrence. Welcome. Shala?
Hi everyone. My name is Shala. Today is my first day and first time being indeed as advisory. And I live last 18 years in different parts of Richmond Hill, and I am a resident of Oak Ridges right now, last few years. I am a child and family therapist that I work privately for now. And then last 8 years, my husband had an accident. And then I get like, to find out how their life is with the disability.
Mm.
And that's the reason I have done so many volunteer work in so many different, city or part of city or out of city. But I find out that I want to, with the new life, I want to be part of this committee and do whatever I can for the community. Thank you very much.
It's wonderful, Shala. Thank you. And Maxine.
Hi, I'm Matt. I worked for Global until I got diagnosed with MS. And I'm so happy to be here because I really believe we need help in dealing with this situation of disability. And so I'm glad to be here and be part.
So are we. Thank you, Maxine.
you.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay, so I think that's everyone here. Let's go to everyone who else is on the who's on the call. Introduce yourselves. We've got Councillor Davidson with us, and she is also a member of this committee. Is that correct? Just reminding myself here. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes, it
me.
is.
Can
Go
you hear
ahead,
me?
Councillor Davidson. Say hello.
I'm
And,
I'm sorry I can't be there. I have I have a library meeting after this, so I'm at the library, but I found a quiet place and I'm happy to work with you folks, and I want our city to be as accessible as humanly possible. So I'm excited about being part of this committee, and welcome to everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. We're very excited to have you on board. Let's go to Sherry Caldwell. If you want to unmute yourself.
Sure, thank you. My name is Sherry Caldwell. I've been living in Richmond Hill since I think 1998, so a long time. I have 4 children, and my daughter is 18, and she has medical, intellectual, and physical disabilities, and she uses a wheelchair, and we run into barrier after barrier. So I actually advocate at the provincial level continually. And I founded an organization called the Ontario Disability Coalition. And a big part of advocacy and my reason for joining this committee is because of the lack of accessible housing in Ontario and in Richmond Hill. And I hope we can do some work on that.
Thank you, Sherry. Welcome. Lopa. Welcome. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Councillor Silibet, and congratulations for
And to you.
Okay, so my name is Lopa Banerjee. I've been with this advisory committee last term as well, and continuing to this term. I'm very I feel honored that I will be able to support and serve in any way. I've been in Richmond Hill for last about 11 years, I would say. And it has been an absolute excellent experience for an immigrant like us to come to Richmond Hill, being accepted, and it has been a very good experience for us. I myself have mobility restrictions, and also in my family where we have intellectual and other restrictions as well. So I'm here to help and serve as much possible and be help to others. Thank you.
Thank you, Lopa. Welcome back. Barry Munro.
Hi, how are you, everybody? Barry Monroe. I'm a lifelong resident in Richmond Hill. I sustained a spinal cord injury in 1987. And since that time have seen the city grow and hopefully try to have some input on how we can make things better and more accessible. I helped found the Richmond Hill Mobility and Accessibility Foundation, which I hope we can work together on, because I think there is a disconnect there, as well as I run the Canadian Spinal Research Organization, whose head office is right here in Richmond Hill. And unfortunately, I'm at an event today, so I couldn't be there in person, but look forward to meeting you all next time. Take care.
Thank you, Barry, and welcome. Yu Wei Lin.
Hi, nice to meet you to all. And I have been living in Richmond Hill for 13 years. So, and I'm being diagnosed with cerebral palsy myself. And when I was born, I have been diagnosed since then. The reason I joined this committee is I want to get I want more people like me who have disabilities to get more opportunities in many different aspects, such as like jobs and other things also. So nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Well, we've got a great group here. We also, I see online, we have Councillor Chu's assistant. Rose is with us. Councillor Chu is not a member of the committee, but welcome, Rose. Thank you for stepping in for your councillor. Just a little bit about myself. I apologize that I'm wearing a mask, but I have to. I still have to wear a mask. I'm immunocompromised at the moment because I'm undergoing a form of chemotherapy to try and repair my lungs. My lungs were badly damaged from COVID infection almost 2 years ago. So through a process that I've been going through over the past year and a half, they found that there is damage to my lungs and continuing inflammation because I have this persistent cough that doesn't go away. So for the past 4 or 5 weeks, I've started on a regimen, a medication regimen of very strong medication that shuts down my immune system to try and get my lungs to repair themselves and to stop the inflammation from being there. We don't know if it's going to work because I have long COVID as well. So a lot of the things that they do with long COVID, I'm with a very good team, a research team with Trinity Health downtown. And they're doing wonderful work. I think I'm one of about 36 patients who are going through their program. So my apologies, I have to have this mask on while I'm in public. And on the other personal side of life is, I'm sure most of you would know, 2 years ago, when we were hit with COVID-19, my husband, Derek, nearly died. He twice. And he was gravely, gravely ill. But thank God for, Mackenzie Health and Cordelucci and nearly 5 months of rehab. He's still with us. But as a result of long-term critical illness and COVID, he is now, he's disabled. So I became his caregiver 2 years ago, as well as recovering from being ill. I also became Derek's primary caregiver. And when he came home, he was in the hospital for about 5.5 months. And he's doing much better now. He's independent, which is really, really good. But I saw, we thank God every day and for the doctors and all the medication and everything that he's on. But he will have to be followed for the rest of his life. He went from being a very healthy 60-year-old man to being having to learn how to walk, speak, talk, swallow, dress himself, use the bathroom, all of that. But we're there, so that's great. But I learned firsthand what it's like. I think, as Shala was saying, what it's like to actually have to take care of someone in that particular caretaker position. So it is very difficult, and I've had thank goodness I've had lots of help. But this term, as your chair and as part of this this committee, I do look at it in quite a different light, because I know that there are many things that we are doing, and there's also many things that hopefully we can introduce and do as well through this committee. This committee advises council. So, let's see how we go over the 4 years. But I definitely look at things with a completely different view now and through a different lens. And that's okay, because we're managing, and hopefully this will work and my lungs will repair themselves. So that's my story. So thank you, everybody. I hope you can all hear me okay. So Ryan, we go to the agenda. Okay, so I'll call this meeting to order, which has already been done. Through Ryan, we have elected the chair and vice chair. Now, what I need to do is I need to have an adoption of the agenda. So I need someone on committee. We only need one person because it's a committee meeting, just to raise their hand. Thank you very much, Patricia. Just to put forward the adoption of the agenda. Okay, and then I'm going to ask everybody to vote on it. All those in favor, just raise your hands. Online as well, raise your hands. Perfect, thank you. I think that passes unanimously. Okay, agenda item number 3 is disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. So that's Ryan, could you just give a very brief description of what that is?
Thank you. Through the chair, pecuniary interest or general nature thereof really pertains to any monetary, conflicts that you may have. Actually, within the next item in the agenda, we will discuss this in more detail, but there's anything money involved with your being on this committee, that would be your time to declare one.
Okay, thank you very much, Ryan. Is there anybody on this committee who has a pecuniary interest in chambers and online? Seeing none, thank you. And on your agenda, we have agenda item number 4, minutes of the previous meeting. So that would be the last meeting that was held in the last term. 4.1, minutes accessibility advisory committee meeting AAC 2-22, held June 23rd, 2022A. At the minutes of accessibility advisory committee meeting AAC 02-22, held June 23rd, 2022 be adopted. So generally, it's always good to, before we come to the meeting, to read through your agenda and read through the minutes to make sure that you are well aware of what is on the agenda. And then the question I asked 2 questions. I'd like a motion from a member of committee to bring this forward. Please just raise your hand if anybody would like to do that. Anybody? Okay, Patricia, again, thank you. That's terrific. And then the question I ask is, does anybody have any comment? Do you want to add anything? Do you have any concerns? Online? No? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. So let's vote on that. So the motion that is on the floor to accept the minutes from June 23. Just raise your hands. And that is, I believe, unanimous. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I don't believe there are any delegations. Okay. Sometimes we have members of the public to step forward and they will have something to say about what's on the agenda. And that term is a delegation. So then we go to our scheduled business for today. And we have a number of things that are on tap for us here. 6.1, scheduled business. Accessibility Advisory Committee orientation, 2022 to 2026 term of office. We are going to have a presentation by Natasha McClarty, who's the Legislative and Special Projects Officer. Natasha, go ahead, and then we'll bring your item forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee here with us today and remotely. It's nice to see you again. My pleasure to be here for your first meeting for this term of council. My name, as introduced, is Natasha McClarty, and I'm a Legislative and Special Projects Officer with the Office of the Clerk. This afternoon, I will be giving you orientation that will touch on important procedural, administrative, and ethical information. Next slide, please. So the Accessibility Advisory Committee is composed of the mayor, ex officio, 2 members of council, between 9 and 12 citizen members who are residents of the city. And I wanted to note that under the Ontarians with Disabilities Act 2001, the majority of members appointed to the committee must be individuals with disabilities. Next slide, please. So the Accessibility Advisory Committee is supported by Brian Inglis, Natasha McClarty, Legislative and Special Projects Officer, Lena Semponia, Aaron Hurley, Stephanie Dumont, Council Committee Coordinator, and Ryan Ban, Deputy Clerk. Next slide, please. So the terms of reference are in place for most committees of council. The terms of reference outline the purpose of this committee, which is to review and provide advice regarding accessibility issues affecting residents of the city of Richmond Hill. Next slide, please. It also outlines the mandate, which is to provide advice and comments to council and staff with regard to the preparation, implementation, and effectiveness of its accessibility plan. Respond to council's request for advice with respect to accessibility for persons with disabilities to a building, structure, or premises, or part of a building, structure, or premise that the city purchases, constructs, or significantly renovates, or is otherwise used by the city. And finally, to receive presentations from staff. Next slide, please. Terms of reference also set out matters that include the committee's delegated authority it may have, committee composition, term of office, lead department, quorum requirements, and meeting schedule. Next slide, please. Your roles and responsibilities include attend meetings and where you are unable to, advise the chair and city staff in advance of the meeting, be respectful of differing opinions, examine all available evidence before making a decision, actively participate in group discussion, and recognize compromise may be necessary to reach group consensus. Next slide, please. Additional roles and responsibilities include members must use their discretion to avoid the appearance of speaking for the committee unless authorized to do so. Members shall not use the influence of the office to which they've been appointed for any purpose other than to exercise their official duties. You are expected to perform your duties in a transparent manner that promotes public confidence and will bear close public scrutiny. And finally, a photo release form must be completed for anyone other than city staff appearing in a photograph if that photograph is property of the city. Next slide, please. So under sections 5 and 5.1 of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, one of your roles and responsibilities is to declare a pecuniary interest if you think you may have one. You may have a pecuniary interest if a matter before the committee is decided on in a particular way that you will gain, lose, or save money, gain a financial advantage, or suffer a financial disadvantage. If you think you have a pecuniary interest, you must declare it and refrain from voting on the matter before committee. Next slide, please. So the committee is also subject to the Code of Conduct for local boards. All members were sent a copy of the Code of Conduct by the city clerk to review the ethical behaviors expected of you as a citizen of this committee. For questions respecting the Code of Conduct, please contact clerks@richmondhill.ca. Next slide, please. In addition to the terms of reference, the committee is also governed by a procedural bylaw. A procedure bylaw is a legislative requirement under the Municipal Act. It governs the calling, place, and proceedings of meetings of council and its committees. It must provide for public notice of meetings, and it should provide for a transparent process, allowing the public to understand the public forum and process for having matters addressed by council. Next slide, please. So each member has the right to one vote, subject to the declaration of pecuniary interest, information to help make decisions unless otherwise prevented by law, an efficient meeting, and to be treated with respect and courtesy. Next slide. So during the meetings, the chair should be addressed directly. Comments and questions should be directed through the chair. Members wishing to speak will raise their hand and will be recognized by the chair before speaking. Members will have 5 minutes to speak and should not be interrupted until finished or their time ends. A timer will be used to be displayed on the screen. You will hear an audible beep that will be heard when there is a 1 minute remaining on your timer and another beep when your time has finished. All members will be provided an opportunity to speak on a matter before any member speaks on it for a second time. Next slide, please. So the role of the chair ensures that meetings are productive, ensures that members are given the opportunity to participate, and we offer support and training for this role, which is available through the clerk's office staff. And the vice chair performs the role in the chair's absence. Next slide, please. So that concludes our orientation. We are happy to answer any questions you have. And if you don't have any questions today, you are welcome to send us an email regarding any procedure or code of conduct questions you may have.
Thank you, Natasha. That was a great presentation. So let's do this first. Could I have a member of committee please bring this item forward for discussion? Anybody? Just raise your hands. One person, Patricia again. Thank you, Patricia. Okay, so we now have this. This is on the table. It's on the floor, and we can have a discussion about it before we vote to receive it. Patricia, do you have any comments as the mover of the motion? No? Anybody else on committee? Do you have any questions of Natasha or this deputy clerk that you want to be more assured of anything? Everybody okay? It's pretty simple, you know, and you can always just, you know, raise your hand and ask. Anybody online who would like to ask any questions? Seeing none? Okay, that's good. Okay, well, thank you, Natasha. That was an excellent presentation, and thank you to staff, all of you, for bringing that forward. So we have a motion on the floor, moved by Patricia, and that A, so it's 6.1A, that the presentation by Natasha McClarty, Legislative and Special Projects Officer, regarding an orientation for accessibility advisory committee members for the 2022 to 2026 term of council be received with thanks. Who's in favor? Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Looks unanimous to me. Thank you very much, members of committee. And by the way, just going back to that, if anybody on this committee, any citizen member of this committee or Councillor Davidson, if there's an item that you would like to discuss, say on the next agenda or the next agenda, the best way to do that is just to send me an email, copy Ryan, and we'll find a way to get it on the agenda and we'll have a full discussion on it. Okay, 6.2, scheduled business. This is a review of Richmond Hill's draft 2023 to 2027 multi-year accessibility plan. Presentation will be by Brian Inglis, who is our other Legislative and Special Projects Officer. The floor is yours, Brian.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good day to you and to the members of the committee. It's a pleasure to address you today regarding the 2023 to 2027 multi-year accessibility plan. So again, my name is Brian Inglis. As mentioned in Natasha's presentation earlier, I'm one of the staff members who will be supporting this committee and administering this committee. So it's a pleasure to meet all of you and I look forward to working with you, some of you again. Today, I would like to present to you again regarding the 2023 to 2027 multi-year accessibility plan. So this plan was circulated to all of you previously. I do hope you had a chance to review it. So I'm just going to give some background and some key points today. Next slide, please. So as many of you probably know, the city's accessibility work is fundamentally based on our obligations under the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, commonly known as the AODA. Under the AODA, most of the detailed standards can be found in the Integrated Accessibility Standards Regulation. And some of our obligations under that regulation include having a multi-year accessibility plan, updating that plan at least once every 5 years, and consulting with the Accessibility Advisory Committee on the plan. So the previous multi-year accessibility plan, or MIAP for short, covered the period from 2018 to 2022. Next slide, please. So we consulted with the previous Accessibility Advisory Committee on April 7th of last year, 2022, regarding the previous plan and overall comments and feedback on it. Office of the Clerk staff also evaluated the plan to identify strengths and opportunities for improvement. So taking into account the previous committee's feedback and our findings, the new plan was developed by the Office of the Clerk staff and of course in collaboration with other departments across the organization. Next slide, please. So we chose a strategic approach for 2023 to 2027, based primarily on three interconnected and adaptable principles. Those are meeting or exceeding standards, community engagement, and continuous improvement. The benefits of taking this strategic approach is that it will allow us to continue to meet our obligations while also remaining flexible and responsive to new challenges. And it encourages an accessibility-driven approach. And so what I mean by that is that the plan is less about individual projects going on in the city and more about how we make sure that all projects going on at the city involve more engagement and optimization with respect to accessibility. Next slide, please. So the plan breaks down our initiatives into 7 key areas. The first is enhancing engagement with the AAC and the community. So engagement with this committee is a top priority of this current plan. And just to give you an idea of some specific ways that we're doing that, we are working with staff and other departments to provide timely information to this committee and more opportunities to provide feedback and input. And we also would encourage members to bring their own concerns and priorities to the attention of staff or the chair, as Chair Silovitz mentioned a few moments ago. The next key area in the plan relates to accessible information and communications. So in recent years, we did, for example, a complete overhaul of all the documents uploaded to our website. We made sure that they're all compatible with assistive technology. And we also trained several dozen staff on making sure that all of their documents are compatible with assistive technology. So we want to maintain that progress and the collaborative approach that we've developed while also being receptive to feedback from the community. The next key area is accessible employment practices. So currently the Human Resources Department does offer accommodations throughout recruitment and employment. So all of our job postings, for example, mention that accommodations are available in the recruitment process. And we also offer individual accommodation plans and emergency response plans to staff. So of course, we'll continue those practices and be receptive to the developing needs of our staff. The next key area is accessibility in the design of public spaces. So the current practices of our design and construction staff actually meet or exceed accessibility standards. So of course, we will continue that and continue to encourage that in any way we can. This committee does receive annual status updates from the design and construction staff on projects, but we are working with staff in that department to find more ways to engage with this committee on projects and get more input. Next slide, please. The next key area is accessible customer service. So in this area, we intend to maintain our current practices and review and optimize our feedback processes and customer service procedures. Under the next key area, general commitments, it also mentions review of accessibility policies and procedures. So reviews of our policies and procedures and feedback processes are basically ongoing all the time. We're receptive to any feedback we receive, but we have also targeted feedback processes as an area to give some attention to make sure that we're getting any feedback that might be relevant from the community that we can improve upon. Also, we need to make sure we ensure accessibility in isolated and infrequent processes. So for example, there's the taxi licensing process, which is relatively isolated from other staff, and we do ensure accessibility in that. And then there are things like elections, which are not constantly ongoing, so we need to make sure that accessibility gets captured in those types of events as well. And the last key area, which really I think is kind of the cornerstone of the whole plan, is continuous improvement. Really, the focus of the design of this plan was to make sure that we're engaging in an ongoing optimization of our entire accessibility approach. And that, of course, includes exploring new priorities and initiatives in collaboration with this committee. Next slide, please. So in terms of the next steps, we would like to hear any comments that you may have about the draft plan, and we'll incorporate those wherever possible into the plan before it is formally adopted by council. And the final version, once it has been prepared, will be presented to council for approval. We will then publish the plan to our website and implement it on an ongoing basis. And this committee will receive annual progress reports on the implementation of the plan. Okay, next slide, please. So that does conclude my presentation. I just wanted to include a reminder one more time to contact the chair or office of the clerk's staff at clerks@richmondhill.ca. If any of the members would like to inquire about bringing anything to this committee's attention or just express any priorities that you would like to have addressed. And with that, I would like to invite your questions and comments.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Deputy Clerk?
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, on the agenda, we do have a motion that we would like to adjust. And I'm just going to bring that up prior to you calling for for a mover. The change here is that certainly the presentation be received, but we are looking for all comments to be referred to staff for consideration in preparing the final 2023 to 2027 multi-year accessibility plan for council approval. So we will take your comments. The plan is to take all comments received, look to see where we can incorporate it, and then bring it directly to council for approval.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brian. That's an excellent presentation. So what we're going to do here again is I'm going to move this back to the committee. And if I could have a member of committee to please bring this item forward. So it's on the floor for discussion. Charlotte, you had your hand up first. Is it okay if you bring it forward? Okay, no, I saw you first, but if you want to, would you like to move this motion? Bring it to the floor? Okay, then we'll come to you. So could I have a member of committee, anybody online who would like to? Sherry, is your hand up there? No? Okay. Councillor Davidson is going to bring it forward. Thank you, Councillor Davidson. So we now have this matter on the floor for discussion. And if you want to speak, please just raise your hand or just click on your little icon. There you go. If you're online, and I will put your name on our speakers list. We have 2 opportunities to speak. 1 and 2, you get 5 minutes, and this is when you'll see the clock begins its countdown from 5 minutes. Don't be too nervous about it. We can give you some extra time if you need it. So I'm going to go to my list, and the first person on my list is Shala. Could you put that's it.
My question is regarding the design public spaces, and I want to know that it said exceed. I review everything, and I have some of the challenges that I still see. That's why I want to know what is the meaning of the exceeded in this area. And if my question is not related now, please let me know, because this is my first time being in this committee.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you for the question. Unfortunately, I'm not necessarily the best person to answer that question because the design and construction staff, are the experts in this area. So, for example, Mohammed Kashani is someone who often presents to this committee. That might be a question that you could discuss with him in the near future. I believe he's planning to present. I don't have the detailed information for the standards followed by the design and construction staff, but in my discussions with them, that it is my understanding that they often exceed standards. But if you have any specific concerns that you've identified, you did mention that you've encountered barriers. We'd very much like to hear about those specifically and take steps to address them.
Thank you. One moment, Shala. Mr. Deputy Clerk.
Thank you. Through the chair to committee member. The requirements are both either in the AODA Act or in the Building Code Act. Just as an aside, Mohammed will be coming, I believe, to the June meeting, subject to the approval of the schedule, to discuss all of what you're asking, and he would be able to provide the committee with more information in regards to what the requirements are, how they're meeting, and how they're exceeding it. But that is all. The requirements themselves are all found in legislation.
Thank you, Brian. Was there anything further, Shala? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Next person on my speakers list is Sherry Caldwell. Please unmute yourself. Go ahead, Sherry.
Hi, I am new to this committee and municipal politics advocacy. So I just, when I read through your accessible plan, I felt as if we're writing about a community that just works, sleeps, and does recreation here, and that it's not there's 209,000 people, I believe, that live in Richmond Hill and sleep here and are housed here. And I think that it's a big miss that we're not including and talking about ensuring that we have accessible housing. And I can tell you there are many people in Richmond Hill that require accessible housing. And I think that the city can be promoting that work. So I'm just wondering why it's left off, and if there's work that we could do to include it. That's my first and biggest concern with the plan.
Thanks, Sherry. Let's deal with one question at a time. I think it's easier. Let's see, Brian, are you able to handle that? I know that we are legislated through AODA to have specific things done when it's mandated, and also when there are new builds or new housing developments, they are also mandated through the AODA Act. That's as far as I know.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So what I would add is that so the function of this committee to some degree is to ensure that the city is meeting its obligations under the AODA. And that just doesn't really include housing built by, builders in the community and that sort of thing. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't take, this comment as, significant. So what I would say about how the plan applies in this case is that we are looking for this kind of input from the committee for new priorities that we can focus on. And, I think that is something that we can work with this committee on, seeing how we can encourage that in the community. When it comes to our obligations as the city, that has more to do with parks and facilities in the community. But again, if committee is interested in how we can encourage accessible housing in the community, then again, that would be one of the priorities that, this plan is designed to help us identify and then address.
That's great. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Mr. Deputy Clerk, you wanted to add something?
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, in terms of accessible housing, certainly all those requirements are handled through the Building Code Act. So for things such as, powered doors, different levels of, sort of whatever the requirements happen to be, those are considered in the Building Code Act. I would imagine that York Region would also have some say in terms of accessible housing, in regards of I would say providing it to certainly the residents of York Region.
Thank you very much. Sherry, back to you.
I think there is a lot of things that we could do to encourage accessible housing, and action has to take place at every level of government. So the AODA doesn't cover housing, and the Ontario Builders Code needs to be changed to include housing. No one at any level of government is thinking and acting on it, and there is a huge significant need. So I would encourage, and I guess if other members of the committee wanted to make this more of a priority, that all levels of government have to take a stand and recognize we have an aging population. And it's just the right thing to do we can't keep going. We have to do better for future generations. So I'm a huge advocate for this. So that's my feedback. And
That's
I'm happy
excellent.
to bring more information forward on this. I can send an email. I sit on the Accessible Housing Network, which is a national committee, and seen many speakers that are very, very well informed in the province of BC. They are putting through Safer Homes Standard, which is something the Rick Hansen Foundation, into law, so that all housing in BC going forward is going to be built accessible. And I think it'd be really nice if the city of Richmond Hill could take a lead on promoting some of this work. It's really critical to the disability community.
Thank you, Sherry. That's appreciated. I'm going to also ask Mr. Deputy Clerk to step in here, but what I will say is that we could certainly maybe have your group come and give us a presentation, which would be wonderful. And that can be a discussion to put that on an agenda. But I believe that we also have to be very careful that we remain within the terms of reference of this committee. And some of what you are suggesting are without those boundaries. So we can only do so much. We will do everything we possibly can within the terms of reference. And I think Mr. Deputy Clerk has something to add there.
Thank you. Through the chair. So certainly we are in contact with the York Region and their accessible advisory committee as well. We actually will be bringing representatives from the York Region throughout this term. They certainly always have things that they want to bring forward to this committee. There's certainly, we have contacts, we're in constant communication with them as things arise. Further to that, I will say that the multi-year, the My App is not about advocating. I certainly can understand and appreciate the members' discussion about City of Richmond Hill advocating, but as the chair mentioned, the terms of reference, and really the My App is about the city's goals for the services that it provides to its residents. And it doesn't contemplate farther or further than that. And that's not the goal of the My App.
Thank you very much, Ryan. I appreciate that. Sherry, do you have anything you want to add to that? We absolutely agree with what you say. However, we have limitations within a committee of council. And so we have to stick to those. But you have some very good ideas, and we can certainly bring it back for discussion, as I said, to perhaps further what your concerns and anybody else's on committee as to what can we better advise? See you, Councillor Davidson. Thank you. What can we better advise, Council? And how can we better present something perhaps to the independent builders who are responsible for what they build? So it's a process. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I'm really glad you sit on that committee. It's excellent. Do you want to add anything?
No, thank you. I'm here to learn, and I'll be listening.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sherry. And nothing further?
No, thank you.
Okay. Next person on my speakers list is Barry Munro. Go ahead, Barry. You could unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say, first off, Sherry, that was I really enjoyed what you just said, and it's kind of along the same lines of where my conversation or questions is going in this portion here. Madam Chair, I'd like to direct this question to Mr. Inglis. My first question is, what forms of engagement do we actually have with the public at large? I'd like for for the city to list how we're engaging our public as to the My App and going forward, or how we have in the past.
Thank you, Barry. Brian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, through you, Madam Chair. So in terms of how we engage the community, so we engage the community basically with individual projects going on in the community for the most part at this point. So residents who live in the area of a project that's being conducted, such as a park redevelopment or a new facility being built, are invited to provide feedback. We have a number of
Unmuted.
invitations.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, we have a number of invitations to provide feedback about anything accessibility related on our website as well. And our staff is all trained to receive feedback of that nature. So again, I mean, part of this plan is to improve the quality of engagement. So that's my answer is we have those things in place, but we are certainly interested in improving the quality of engagement with our public.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. And Barry, if I can add too, I mean, I've been on council since 2014 and I've seen an incredible increase in what we do in order to accommodate for AODA, for those who are disabled, whether they be children or adults and seniors. So we go through an extensive process, and when Mohammed Kashani gives us his presentation, I'm sure that that will be dealt with as well, as to how we incorporate and ensure that our parks and trails are as accessible as they can possibly be. Any follow-up, Barry?
Yeah, just follow up. I'd like, frankly, I think that's something we should be discussing maybe in a future agenda item on that, more combined with the marketing of what we do and what the city is doing for accessibility. I'll be frank, I don't think the general public really understands what's being done, or to even Sherry's point of what we might want to look at into the future as an accessibility committee. I think accessibility is something that's always evolving and changing, and we're taking lessons and learning from all over the world and what we could do to make things better. And I'm frankly not really want to be a member of a committee to rubber stamp an AODA obligations, but look at Richmond Hill and how we can make it more accessible, and more importantly, engage our citizens and let them know what we've even done. Because sometimes what happens is some great things are happening, but the majority of the citizenry doesn't really know what's happening. So I think it's something we should address maybe in an ongoing future agenda item. And I think I if you're okay with that, Madam Chair, I'd put more thought to it, maybe make a suggestion in a more formal way going forward.
Sure, Barry, thank you. Very valid. Ryan, I think that we can address that as we move forward. Again, always remember that this is an advisory committee to council, and it is council that makes any final decisions should anything be put forward to them. Anything to add, Ryan?
To the chair, no, nothing to add. Certainly we have some other committees that are looking to see what they can do to go out to the community and elicit feedback and really, discuss what the role of the committee is and try to move things forward. So certainly we can bring that forward to a future agenda.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Barry. And it's very similar. Councillor Davidson and I sit on the Heritage Richmond Hill Committee, also known as HRH. And it's we have the same discussions there as well. How do we bring that forward to a greater extent to the public so that they actually know what we do and what we attempt to do on the Heritage Richmond Hill Committee as well. So with that, Councillor Davidson, you're next. You want me to
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I'm thrilled to be on this committee, and I'm here to learn because it sure seems like lots of people on this committee know more about these issues and have hands-on experience. I wanted to say to Sherry Caldwell that from my perspective, this committee is a great opportunity to consult with others, but it's by no means the only avenue to deal with some of these bigger issues. And I would encourage you to reach out to your local councillor. I don't know if it's me, but give me a call either way. And also regional councillors, because saying it's not within the purview of this meeting doesn't mean that it's not something we should be working towards, and that regional councillors and maybe you've done these things, and forgive me, but I'd be more than happy to join you with a meeting with Godwin Chen or Joe DiPaolo or even the mayor about having good connections with the region, which can help facilitate some of these things as well. So anyway, I just want to say that this is a great group, but it's by no means the only way we can try to improve things. So please don't be discouraged, and hopefully we can work together on bigger problems. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Appreciate that. And I completely agree with you. With regard to that discussion also with Sherry, is that we as the municipality, we are bound by the region and we are mostly bound by the province. So we are mandated by very specific provincial legislation. So one of them in this discussion would be AODA, and another one is the building code. So if there is, and this is for all of us on committee, all of anybody listening, and for your group as well, your group or groups, Sherry, that those, and I'm sure you know this, that would be one of the items that would absolutely be advocated towards our provincial representatives, and we have 2 in Richmond Hill. So that's a further discussion that can be had, but there are also the same as our terms of reference keep us in a specific place. A municipality is also kept in a specific place as well. But we can certainly go up higher. And Councillor Davidson's discussion is very good as well. We can definitely employ our regionals to assist us in that, because the region does have greater reach than us, that's for sure. Any follow-up, Councillor Davidson?
No, but I also want to say this council has tried to foster excellent relationships with all levels of government, including Mr. Parson, Daisy White, and our federal representatives. So if the problem is even getting a discussion going, like, we can probably help with that. It's just we are limited in what we can tell builders to do. And but like I said, all levels of government, I agree with you. We all need to work together. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. So when we work on council and we're working with land use planning issues as well, we are working with the Planning Act. We are bound to it and mandated by it. So we are also bound to that provincial act. And if changes need to be made, they have to be made at the provincial level. So it's some people refer to it as red tape sometimes, but it's actually more than that. So it's process and procedure. Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Okay, that I can't see anybody else on my list. Is there anyone else online? Okay, Yue, I will come to you next. Is there anyone on bench? I'll come back to you for a second round. Anybody else wish to speak here? No? Okay. Yue Lin, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to bring up something because I graduated from college like before the pandemic, like in 2019. And I start soon, and soon after I start to try to find jobs, search for jobs, and until now it's very difficult for me to get accepted, and I don't get too many even response. Even I send the resume and fill in the applications. So I'm not sure, and I have a feeling I try to compete with everybody else who are, normal, who doesn't have a disability. So I find really, I don't want to say disencouraged, but I feel it's a bit more disappointed. I try to, different rules, different ways to connect with people, but the result doesn't come out very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Yue. If I could just ask you to expand a little bit on that. When you say people, whom are you referring to?
Because you know, I at first I try to, you know, I registered on like job search website, job posting website, and based on the job posting, I you know, submit the application and I send the resume, and I don't get really too many responses, and I now then I want to like I join with different you know, like sorry,
No, that's
forgive
okay.
me, I try to, you
Take your
know,
time.
I know I have limited time. I join with like job search agencies, like they help me to edit resumes and everything else, um but I have a feeling that they take me to different places like malls to send resumes to different stores, but that doesn't comes out the result very well. No. So now I try to join, like attend job fairs and build connections, but I'm not sure if there are any other ways, or maybe we can like promote more opportunities for people like me who that who are searching jobs, you know, tirelessly, non-stoply, you know, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That it's, you know, discussions like this is what broaden all of our perspectives. And
Sorry, I want to add something. I know
go
we
ahead.
mentioned about boundaries, but I'm not sure if it's really a thing that we can talk about. But I really feel that I need the most help, support, maybe to everyone who are like me, you know.
No, it's a good point, because if we're not in your situation, we don't know that, right? I mean, everybody knows that's going back to me, but without being in a situation, you don't know what that situation is until you're actually in it.
Yeah.
So I completely understand what you're saying. And again, that could also be another point of discussion as we move through the term, which you know, the staff will put that down. And we do run a job fair through the city at least once a year, I believe. So, you know, that's another thing that can be put up for discussion at that particular moment. So we are also DEI now, diversity and inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we are a DEI city, and that's also a part of it. So being DEI, having an advisory committee, we do all of that to ensure that our council is advised appropriately and correctly as to what it is they can do, or perhaps more that can be done.
Yeah.
And because our comments go through staff become aware of issues. So this is very, very specific to that, and I totally support you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yue. Is that it? Anything further?
That's it.
Okay. Anybody else on the first round? Seeing none. Okay, I have two speakers on the second round. First on my list is Shala.
Thank you. My question is, I have a few areas that when I review the plan, I didn't see there. I was wondering that those questions could stay until Mr. Kashani come and explain. Is it possible to just raise it in that time? Or I don't know, is it possible? Because there are a few things that I did not see in the plan for the improvement. So I was wondering if there is anything could stay like for when he comes and explain, or I need to raise it now.
Are you referring to when Mr. Kashani joins us and he gives us a new plan? Okay.
I want to know that because it was a few areas that I did not see in the plan. I reviewed the plan, but I did not see it there. So I was wondering for the improvement plan, can I raise it now, or I have to wait for Mr. Kashani come and represent?
Good question. Mr. Deputy Clerk?
Thank you. Through the chair, to the committee member, if you want to bring those up now, we can determine whether or not that is something, again, we should try to incorporate into the My App. As far as Mr. Kashani will come to the AAC to present, anything you do bring, should it not be part of the My App, certainly we will bring it forward to him, to whether it's within his annual update regarding city projects, or even just as a separate item to discuss. Here are what the standards are. Here's how we meet them. Here's how we exceed them. Here's our strategy when we put together a project, and hopefully that would address any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ryan. Go ahead, Shala. If you want to mention a few things now, you can also always send it in an email.
Sure. There is one of them is the gym that it wasn't, it wasn't there. There was improvement for the accessible gym. And there was improvement for the friendly medical centers and trails. These was three main things that I saw. It wasn't specifically in the plan. So these are three. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it'll come back to us, and then we can even have further discussion. Thank you very much, Shala. Is that all for you on the second round? Okay. Next person on the second round is Sherry. Please go ahead.
I just wanted to respond to Yui about his challenge. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I'm sorry. His challenge for employment is not uncommon, sadly, in the community. But I have some resources, so maybe if we could connect by email. I wasn't sure how we do that. On the plan, though, the second comment that I had is the parks in Richmond Hill, the playgrounds for children and adults, I guess, are my daughter's in a wheelchair and are not accessible. They might meet AODA standards, but they're not accessible. Sand and wood chips do not work for walkers and wheelchairs. And I would encourage Richmond Hill to exceed those standards and try to make sure that they are more accessible.
Thanks, Sherry. That's such an excellent comment. And it's the same as with UI. It's when you're in that situation, then you know about that. And this is also something that Mohammed and his team will most definitely address when they come to us, and it can be a question posed to them as well. Mr. Deputy Clerk, could you make sure that Sherry and UI contact each other through email? Thank you very much. Okay, so anything further, Sherry?
No, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else who wishes to make any comments here? I'm seeing none. So I'll wrap it up. I've said everything that I needed to say in my comments. Thank you, everybody. This is the exact kind of conversation that we want to have and that we need to have. And we will do everything we possibly can as an advisory committee to ensure that staff and council are fully aware of what this particular committee foresees as matters of great import. So thank you everybody for your input. It's deeply appreciated. So seeing no more, I have a motion on the floor from Councillor Davidson. It's agenda item 6.2. A, that the presentation by Brian Inglis, I'll read it. Thank you. That the presentation by Brian Inglis, Legislative and Special Projects Officer, regarding a review of Richmond Hill's draft 2023 to 2027 multi-year accessibility plan be received, and all comments be referred to staff for consideration in preparing the final 2023 to 2027 multi-year accessibility plan for council approval. So all those in favor of the motion on the floor, just raise your hands. Thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, next item is agenda item 6.3, the proposed 2023 Accessibility Advisory Committee or AAC meeting schedule. A, that the 2023 meeting schedule for the Accessibility Advisory Committee be approved. Mr. Deputy Clerk, do you want to speak to this at all?
Thank you. Through the chair. So historically, and again, absolutely, we can change as required. The Accessibility Advisory Committee meets every approximately 3 months to, I think it should be every two to 3 months. It's so many times per year ultimately. So again, we are in April. Certainly we have our inaugural meeting, if you will. But what we do have here are some suggested dates. Historically, again, they've been held Thursdays at 3 p.m. They will be held in a hybrid format. So certainly you can come in person, or you can come join us electronically via Zoom. However, these are the dates that we have. Again, that would bring us, June would be the next one. And then there's this summer recess. And then we would have one in September and then again in November. And then when 2024 comes, we will revisit this probably at the November 2nd meeting to discuss the timelines for 2024. So here's what I have up on the screen. So again, Thursdays at 3 p.m., 1 June 8, 1 September 7, and 1 November 2nd. I will take any questions should there be any.
Thank you very much. I see Councillor Davidson has raised her hand. Councillor Davidson, would you like to bring this matter forward to the floor, and then we can have any discussion that's necessary? For one moment, we have something extra.
I apologize. That should be September 28, not September 7.
My deepest apologies. I have to go to a money meeting about the library, so I look forward to seeing everyone. I can move the motion though, if you want to get the ball rolling. And I will catch up with you, Karen, afterwards. And everyone take care. And I really look forward to working with everyone. My apologies again. I'm on 3 committees and they're all on Thursday. So take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson.
Bye-bye.
We are very pleased to have you on our committee.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so is there anybody else who has any comments about the 4 dates that are in front of us, April 20th, June 8th, September 28th, November 2nd, always remembering that if you do have any concerns about any of those dates for 3 p.m., in person or electronic, you can always email myself and the Deputy Clerk, Ryan Mann, and you can let us know whether you have a problem with that date, if it's possible to reschedule it, or that you are unable to attend a committee meeting, because it's always good to know what we've got quite a large committee, so we need what is the quorum number that we need for this committee, Ryan? 7. Thank you. So we need 7 members always in attendance for this particular committee, so that we reach quorum and we can actually have the meeting. So just if you keep that in mind, and if you have any other questions that you want to ask of myself or of the Deputy Clerk, again, please don't hesitate to ask us. I see Lopez raised her hand. Madam Vice Chair, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only concern with the 4 dates that I have is the June 8th, when I will be away on vacation out of the country. So in advance, I wanted to let you know that I will not be able to attend that date. Thank you.
Thanks, Lopa. We can come with you.
I'm actually going to Paris.
Oh, we're definitely coming with you. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, last call. If anybody wants to have any discussion on those dates, seeing none. Okay, so Councillor Davidson brought this forward. All those in favor, just raise your hands. Any opposed? Seeing none, I believe that carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Let me just get back to our agenda. So agenda item 7 then is the date of the next meeting, and that is set now for Thursday, June the 8th, 2023. Yes, sorry. Thursday, June the 8th, 2023 at 3 p.m. to be held in person in council chambers, if you so wish to be here, or online. And it's also always a good idea to let Ryan know whether or not you're going to be here virtually or whether you're going to be here in person, because that's also a very, very important thing. So the next item on our agenda is adjournment. And before we get to that, Simon, thank you. Simon is going to move that forward. Again, I want to thank everybody, to all our new members, welcome. And it's wonderful to see some returning faces, and to our staff who work with us hand in hand on this particular committee, as with others. I want to thank them for all their input and all the dedicated work that they do in order for us to actually have a meeting such as this come forward. So with that, I have Simon, who's moved an adjournment. All those in favor, just raise your hands. Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you next month.